And you're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cederstrom in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and we believe there is power, absolute power in truth, and Power Talks. And we welcome you this morning. Welcome, Melody, my partner. How are you doing this morning, Melody?
I'm doing just great. Good morning to you, and good morning to our listeners.
Awesome.
August
it's Thursday.
Yes, the 31st.
The 31st. We have been today officially one broadcast month on the air.
Mm-hmm.
One broadcast month. We're still learning, listeners. We're still learning. We're still trying to get our groove together, as they say. And we have a whole new routine. Both of us were talking before the show. It's changed our lives. We have a whole new routine in the office, and we're still trying to get used to that and get used to each other. Used to each other.
Yes.
So.
And I've just been enjoying it so much. I enjoy the listeners. We are making new friends out there, and we're combining with old friends. And it's just wonderful to hear people call in. And again, we encourage you to give us a call and to what we're talking about. And we thank you. And Beth, what's that number again?
It's 717-300-1218 to give us a call, 717-300-1218. And I want to remind everyone before we get started here that Discount Gold and Silver Trading is sponsoring this show as well as other shows, and Melody has her own show, the Financial Survivor. Is that what it's called?
Financial Survival. They can hear
Survival. I always get that wrong.
Pay attention, Beth.
I know.
Would you please?
I'm trying. I write it down. You think I remember.
But they can listen to it online at the website, dgscoins.com. All the archives are posted there, and, of course, you can listen live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You know, we talk about the end of the day and things that have happened over time, historical events, just interesting events. And there was a lot of them for August. I check every day. Some interest me, and, you know, today there was a list of them, Beth.
Well, great.
And they're interesting. And it's
all
like
right.
The end of August is I'm just going to start staying home on August 31st. But this all goes all the way back to 1886. The largest recorded earthquake rattles Charleston. It was a 7.6 magnitude earthquake, and this was the largest recorded earthquake in the history of the southeastern United States. 1888, Jack the Ripper claims his first victim. 1954, Hurricane Carol strikes northeastern Atlantic states. In 1969, this is for the guys who likes boxing and sports and so forth. Rocky Marciano, he dies in a plane crash. He was only 45 years old. And 1992, people of the Patriot Movement, alternative radio, can go back to 1992 and remember Randy Weaver. He surrenders, ending Ruby Ridge Siege. And that was out of Naples, Idaho, I believe. And it was an 11-day siege by the federal agents in which he lost his wife and son. 1997, here's another death, Princess Diana. She dies in the Paris crash. And what's interesting about that story is when I was in Paris, we were, with our tour guide, and he was taking us, around the city and so forth. And we go under this underpass, and he says, well, this is where Diana had her crash. Wow. I was expecting a long tunnel. I mean, because that's the vision that we received, in the media from the various angles. It looked like a long tunnel. It wasn't. It's an underpass. So it's
really?
Yes. And so it wasn't a very short, it wasn't a, I guess long underpasses they might call tunnels, but it was an underpass. We were on there maybe 4 seconds, going through this when he mentioned that. So kind of interesting of just how deceptive pictures can be. Anyway, in 2010, I hate to mention this person's name, but Obama ends the U.S. combat mission in Iraq. Now, that can be debatable whether the mission was actually ended or not. But
just because he said it doesn't mean it's happened that way.
I just thought those were interesting. A lot of hurricanes and catastrophic natural events, occurrences, earthquakes and hurricanes, and particularly when we're dealing with Harvey, and a lot of interesting. You have some good stories coming out of.
I do have some good stories.
And you're the good story person. I'm the.
Well, we have some good stories. Well, I always you talk about the last day of August. I always think of my birthday that way, because on my birthday was when the Hyatt Regency Hotel collapsed, and it's also when that airplane was a Flight 700 that went down, and of course they still don't know what happened with that. We believe it was shot down, but it might have been friendly fire, but it was shot down. But anyway, those two things happened on my birthday, which was July 17th. So I kind of worry maybe nothing big will happen historical today. We'll just be a good, warm, cool day. Be, cool as in safe. All right. There are some good Samaritans, and there's things that are happening where people are stepping up and doing whatever they can. We talked about Joel Osteen's church opening up, and other churches that have opened up, and businesses that are large enough that have opened up to help people. And this is a guy that he has a mattress business, and he calls himself Jim Mattress Mac. And he is offering up his stores for the evacuees and his trucks for rescue operations. He says, to heck, that's not what he said, but to heck with profits. And so he's opening up his business. I mean, he doesn't have any business anyway right now, so he might as well open it up to people to come in and take refuge, and as well as offering up his trucks to help with that as well. And I thought that was a really good story. And the gentleman that owns MyPillow, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. He has given 60,000 pillows to the flood victims. 60,000 pillows. That's a lot of pillows. And so we know that there are good things, good people that are stepping up, and there are bad people stepping up. They're going into these businesses and looting and taking things as if they belong to them. And I have a story of a Texas gun owner that he's kind of patrolling the neighborhood, and he's trying to keep the looters away. I had a little confrontation with them. And I think you can watch the video online. This particular story is coming from Newsmax that I have in my hand, but I've seen it from several other news sources, and I saw him talking about it last night on some of the news outlets. But he says, our country has turned into a majority of people who feel that they don't need to depend on themselves in a time of crisis. Somehow government has seen as the savior in every situation. However, no matter how big government gets, it cannot be everywhere at once. And he went on and he was talking about, contrary to the opinion of the media and anti-gun organizations, we do not keep our firearms to overthrow the government, go on shooting sprees, or form militias. We want to keep ourselves safe. We want to protect our families. We want to defend what we have worked hard for all our lives. And firearms provide an additional resource to all those things. Now, you could understand if he is also a retired policeman, I believe. He says being prepared is not only just for the Boy Scouts. But these people weren't just going in and taking food or necessary items from these little quick shops and such. They were robbing the cash registers. They were taking things that weren't necessarily saving items, like food and things that you would have to have. They were taking cash out of the cash registers.
I don't know if anyone remembers, but during Katrina, they went around and confiscated weapons. They went door to door. That. Do you remember that? They went door to door. So what a difference from states. And I
can't see you doing that to Texas.
I can't either.
You don't mess with Texas.
But it shouldn't happen anywhere, regardless of the situations. And I can remember there was a little old lady who didn't want to give up her weapon, and I can't recall if they arrested her or what. She didn't want to give up her weapon, and I think they took it forcibly somehow, some way.
It was just a video thing.
Yeah,
yeah. It took a big SWAT team to come in. I watched the video on that, and I'm thinking she should have just shot one of them. No, I didn't really mean that, but it was ridiculous that they did that. As if
I would just be like her. Even in Boston, remember Boston when they went door to door and they searched homes? I mean, to me, that was the biggest when they had the Boston Marathon explosion and they had the curfew. Well, I don't have a problem with a curfew so much, but I do have a problem with them going door to door searching your homes, whether you want them in or not. So basically, your home was searched without a warrant. And I would be one of those that says, no, you can't come in. And so I know I would be arrested, and and I certainly wouldn't do any nasty force or anything like that. But I wouldn't be so compliant just to say, sure, come on in. Let me tell you, there's no one here, and you're just going to have to trust me on that.
In Missouri, we had in this little town where I'm at, we did have a shooter that was taking out cops and other people, and this was many years ago. I was still living here. I mean, I was living here then, and it was kind of a scary.
90s, wasn't it?
It was in say that again?
That was in the late 90s.
It's early 90s. It was in 91. Mm-hmm. And were you still in Missouri at that time?
No, but I heard the stories.
Oh yeah.
The sheriff really depended on the people because they all had their weapons.
Yeah, we did. We did, and he did take refuge in a home of a little old lady who actually witnessed to him, and that ended up in the Guidepost. The story ended up in the Guidepost, her story of him coming in there, and so you just never know when something's going to happen or somebody's going to go berserk. And it pays to be prepared, just like the Boy Scouts, to be prepared. I don't know if we should start this yet or not, but I also have, and I know that you have a story too, and I've titled them Dangers Lurking, that things are still, the floodwater's starting to subside, but there's things that are still going on, and it's going to take a long time for that floodwater to subside in a lot of places. And it is starting in some areas, but it's going to take some time. And I have several stories here, and I know that you have one too, where the danger is still lurking. It's still there, and people need to be aware of it. Let's take your story first, because I think mine might take a little bit longer.
Really?
I think. Oh, maybe not. You want me to go with mine?
Really? Well, there are a lot of things going on, and this is something that's going on right now, and this is the Arkema Inc. It is a chemical plant. And yesterday I reported this story on my 4 o'clock show and talked about how the CEO came out and said that there was absolutely no way to prevent an explosion at this chemical plant. They store the chemical organic peroxide has to be kept at a cool temperature, and without the power, they had no electricity, and their generators were all flooded out. They had like 6 feet of water at the plant. So they lost everything to control what happens to this chemical, and this chemical is used in plastics and other things. It's once again, it is organic peroxide. So yesterday it was that they evacuated 1.5 miles around this chemical plant, and they're just waiting for the explosions. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter it's going to happen within the next 6 days. So after he made that announcement and so forth, because I talked about it yesterday, I hear the music, so I'm going to have to finish talking about it after the break.
I think I have one too. Is the one you're talking about from Crosby, Texas?
Yes.
Okay, I have that one too. Yeah, we need to discuss that and some of the other dangers that are lurking for those victims that are still there, for people that are still there, and for those that are rescuing. These things are highly dangerous, and that's just one of them. You're listening to Power Talks. The phone line is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. When we come back, we'll talk more about the dangers that are lurking in Texas and Louisiana.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. Because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario, this false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. The number to call to join us in conversation is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. We were talking about the dangers that are lurking, and Melody, I'm going to let you continue with the story that you had there with the chemical plant, and that's in Crosby, Texas.
This is in Crosby, Texas. And why I was setting it up was because this was coming out yesterday, and the CEO was saying, yeah, and now now they're having these explosions. The story is changing a little bit about, it's really not as bad as it is. There isn't anything toxic about the fumes. And this isn't explosions. These are just containers being overpressurized. They're hearing pops. So yesterday it was explosions that they can't control, and it's going to happen within the next 6 days. And now today's it's container overpressure, and there isn't anything dangerous about the fumes that are coming from the plant. So it's interesting to see how the stories change. Attorneys got involved, but to me this is a very dangerous situation. And I would think, and I was listening to a news report last night on an investigative reporter who they've been investigating these huge plants that store chemicals. And that in case of some sort of catastrophic event, what can these plants do to keep explosions and toxic fumes from escaping. And with this organic peroxide, there is a compound that you can use to keep it from exploding and catching fire. And these plants are supposed to keep that compound. Obviously, this plant doesn't have it, because once you add the compound to the chemical is no longer active and it would have to be replaced. So, is this a situation where, you just have a corporation who doesn't think that the catastrophic events are going to happen, and they're trying to save a dime, and in the meantime, they put, the whole surrounding area in danger.
The article that I have here says that 2 explosions were reported.
Already reported.
At a flooded chemical plant in Crosby, Texas, and that happened early Wednesday, which was the day after it was fully evacuated by authorities. Arkema,
it happened late last night, I think, yeah.
Arkema, the company in charge of the plant, released a statement saying the situation is extremely serious. This is coming from ABC 13, it said. The Harris County Sheriff's Office announced on Twitter that one deputy has been taken to the hospital after he breathed in the smoke from the plant, while 9 others went to the hospital as a precaution. It also says that they have authorities notified Arkema of the explosions early Wednesday morning. Both agreed that the best course of action is to let the fire burn itself out because of the nature of the chemicals, according to Houston Chronicle. Authorities have also ordered an evacuation of the area within 1.5 miles of the plant, and residents more than 1.5 miles away are being told to take shelter in their homes. So here you've got the flooding going on. Now you've got this chemical plant exploding and putting toxic chemicals in the air to breathe, and there's no telling what we're going to see out of all of this.
And it's interesting is the county police, the Harris County Police, described the vapors as non-toxic irritant. Now, the plant that manufactures organic peroxide, it's used in everything from pharmaceuticals to construction materials such as countertops and pipes. But it has to be stored in cold. Otherwise, it will combust. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration warns that contact of organic peroxides with the eyes should be avoided. And they're going to let this burn out. Some organic peroxides will cause serious injury to the cornea, even after a brief contact, or will be corrosive to the skin. Many organic peroxides also burn. There was an earlier study done by the EPA, and they found that organic peroxides are skin and eye irritants and could also cause liver damage. So yeah,
it's a danger that
it's a very big danger. And also, I believe there is a water system in Beaumont. I'm not to change the story here, but here's a water system that also is failing. I think over by Beaumont near the Louisiana border, but so very dangerous
Beaumont
situation.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Beaumont is the water system that's failing? Because I'm going to look that up here for later. Water system, okay.
Yes.
Well, I know there's so many things. You remember earlier this week you talked about somebody who's in that area that had said others had seen alligators. Mm-hmm. And I have this story, and this is from, sometimes I'm not always trusting of them. They'll get part of it, and then but it says that there's a huge danger with hundreds of them on the loose, talking about alligators, because there's an alligator adventure park nearby, I guess, in Gator Country. And it says earlier this week, numerous towns along the coast of Texas were hit by Hurricane Harvey. And that although Harvey was later downgraded to a tropical storm, the insistent rain resulted in a massive amount of flooding, and of course we all know that. But it says here one of the Texans most concerned about the extensive flooding is Gary Sarge, Saurage, S-A-U-R-A-G-E, Saurage, I don't know how you pronounce it, who co-owns Gator Country, an alligator adventure park in Beaumont filled with roughly 350 alligators and a variety of other reptiles. He owns that with an Arlie Hammonds. When Harvey first hit, the flooding was so bad that numerous alligators in their farm were reportedly able to escape out of their enclosures. And so they are worried, and they said it is putting human life in danger. 350 alligators. That's scary to me. Yes, very scary. So that might have been, the one that you had earlier this week had seen these alligators. Mm-hmm. Perhaps they were from this alligator park.
Well, I think so much of the reporting has been, of course, focused on, the savings, the savings of people, bringing them out of the, people's homes and so forth, the rescues, I should say, not the savings. Mm-hmm. I need more coffee, but the rescues. And a lot of these little stories kind of didn't find their way, and so you really want to know when it happened and so forth. And underwater electrical threats are also very dangerous to the people, because you have, we've talked about in some parts of the city is flooded, but yet they still have power and so forth. And you could be you could be walking along in the yard and people have outside lights and so forth, where that water could be electrical, a current. Current.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and I believe someone has already died because they went to go home to do one thing or another, and he walked on the yard and was electrocuted. So a lot of dangerous risks that are involving, and the largest refinery could be shut down for 2 weeks. So again, you're going to start seeing rising prices in your gasoline. There's even reports that people will be out of gas by Labor Day, because there's a lot of people travel on Labor Day. So, as the city and the area begins to dry out, and I don't think the worst is quite over yet, depending on how these sad situations affect each individual. But
well, but there's lots of things yet that are going to be taking place, and the looting and that, the bad guys coming in there, that's just starting. It's going to get really bad. Disease. That when the water starts going down, what it's brought in. I mean, if you mentioned a water system failing in Beaumont area, that means, it's very possible this dirty water, sewage water, is going to get into the water systems in some of these areas, and it's going to, not to mention just the filth that it leaves behind. There's so much more yet we don't even know the death toll yet. When the water subsides, I'm sure that's going to rise. There's a lot of people missing, and it's something that this nation we need to continue to be in prayer for Louisiana and Texas. And Irma's coming in. Isn't that the name of the next one that's coming?
Yes, it is.
So it's not sure where that one's even predicted to, what it's predicted to do even. I mean, they're still watching Irma, but I guess it's tropical storm season.
And they said definitely by next week is Irma, will probably surpass as far as the discussion of Harvey, because they do expect it to be a very big one. So hopefully they're wrong. They can be wrong.
They can be wrong.
Yeah, they can be wrong.
They get the weather wrong all the time.
Almost
every usually day. When they're predicting big like that, they kind of know. I know whenever they tell us we're going to get 20 inches of snow, they're pretty sure.
Yeah.
They're pretty sure. When they're saying, it might be 2 to 6 inches, they don't have a clue. But when they tell us we're going to get 20 inches of snow, you better batten down, because they know what they're talking about at that point in time. So we just need to continue to remember those in Texas and Louisiana, and understand that even though the rain has stopped falling, I believe it has stopped raining now, at least in some
Houston area. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That we need to realize that there are other dangers and that are lurking, and we've got people out there in the water still trying to rescue and other things. And so if you've got electric currents and you got alligators and you got looters, you got all these things to contend with, it's there's just a lot to be praying about.
Absolutely. So are we done with Houston? Are we ready to
We're
move
done with
on?
Houston.
Are we done with Houston?
We're done with Houston. The good and the bad and the ugly.
Where are we going to travel to now?
Well, it's up to you. It's up to you. What do you want to talk about next?
Let's get this. I think we've seen a nice reaction in gold today. It was down earlier, and it did recover. It was up $6 the last time I looked. Same way with silver. It has a turnaround. But I think that has a lot to do, not so much with the financial news that was released yesterday with the GDP and so forth, but I think Mr. Trump's fire and fury, U.S. nuke-ready jets dropped bombs near North Korea border, and after Donald Trump warned talking was not the answer. And I believe, I'm not sure if it was Mattis, but everyone wants discussion. Even Beijing has said it will not allow war or chaos on the Korean peninsula. Russia has pretty much said the same thing, that we need to have a discussion, and we'll have to see which direction and what happens. Russia said, insists there cannot be any military solution to the crisis on the Korean peninsula, but it certainly seems that everyone is flexing their muscles to show what everyone can do. And my question is who is China and Russia drawing the line in the sand to? Is it the United States, or is it to Korea, or is it to both?
You have to it's not really a funny situation because it's really escalating. But how much talking did Russia do with Crimea when they went in there? It's
well, Crimea is not going to start a World War III. North Korea
No, it's not, and this very likely could. And China, they're really big talking right now, but they're the ones that hold the cards to. They could stop North Korea. They could, they could kind of calm that man down just a little bit, but they haven't really. It doesn't appear on this side that they've done that. Now, there could be some things going on that we don't know about. Obviously, there are. But China could put a stop to this. They're ones that could control him. And I know that I have this article where the U.S. has shot down a medium-range ballistic missile, during a test off of Hawaii, and I think we're doing that to show them, we're going to shoot it down if you shoot one up. And we wondered why they didn't do that over the one over Japan, why we didn't shoot that down and just say, that's not going to happen. And John Bolton was wondering why they hadn't done that. He's one that's really thinking we're going to have to get in there and do something, and he was saying two days ago that striking now early is of less risk than waiting to when this escalates even more. So I don't know, I'm not military minded, and that just words like that just scare me to death. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting how it's escalating, and everybody, like you said, they're flexing their muscles.
And my bigger question is, why would China try to control him when I think China is using him to some degree, because I come back to the dispute of the South China Seas. And right. I think you've got so much trade. You've got, over $5 trillion of trade that passes through there on an annual basis, and you have these disputes in this water, and China wants to control it. And so, and China needs that buffer zone at North Korea. So, to some degree, they don't want North Korea destroyed. They want to keep that buffer zone going. So you would think that they would have a little bit more interest in keeping from anything from happening. So, it's, and again, I think there's so much that's going on that we don't know about. So we just have to sort of, connect the dots as we receive this information to see, what's really going to happen. But no one really mentions Iran either when they talk about North Korea and the support that North Korea gets from Iran. So, you have to ask yourself, we've been told all our lives Iran's not good, and so are they actually pushing North Korea to do these things? Telling them that we'll be there to support you, and you just really don't know, because it's just, people are there's sides to
and we
everything.
believe that China and Russia have helped prop both these up, to build their military up, build their nuclear capabilities, and it's just something, it's escalating. Why they're,
Well, what really built China up was the American dollar, with people buying their trinkets.
Their trinkets.
Their trinkets.
Their beads and their trinkets.
Their beads and their trinkets. Cheap trinkets.
Yes.
All of our money, all of our manufacturing, everything went over to China due to those great trade deals. That should be treason if we go to war. Because, they were able to increase all their military, so now where are we? I think China's too big to control. They hold all our debt.
They do hold a lot of it. They have some debt themselves too,
well,
and they don't want to lose this. They don't want to lose this trade deal they've got going. That's they don't want to lose that because they're reeking it in. They're ringing it in pretty big, and these are things that go back, to policies from the past.
Yes.
Not just blaming President Barack Obama. It goes back farther than that. That this has just been allowed to keep smoldering and festering, and now here it is. And why at this time he's doing this, I don't know. We had a good caller earlier that a couple weeks ago that was explaining some of that to us. And those are the days when I wished I'd have paid attention to world history. I always loved American history, and I always was bored to death with world history, and now I realize how much they are together, and we should be paying attention to everything that's going on.
Yeah, but it's even hard to go over history when you have, organizations like the CIA that do covert operations that make you think one thing that even history can't be reported properly. So it's really hard to even follow, for modern history. Because I don't know about past, but modern history for sure, when you have the Mossad, when you have the CIA, when you have all these other governmental, private organizations that go out and create these situations that people aren't report. Oh, yeah, that was the CIA that, So it's difficult to really
it's definitely like a spider web, isn't it?
It certainly is. And that's the whole key to people being prepared themselves, because you really can't depend on the government. You can't depend on them taking care of these situations. You can't depend that there's nothing, that a nuclear war won't come from North Korea. You can't depend that China's not going to dump the dollar because they have so much debt. And they might even have so much debt that they might have to dump the dollar. You can't ignore the fact that, China has set out trillions of dollars so their corporations can buy businesses from around the world. Look how many businesses are being bought up from here in the United States. We welcome manufacturers from heaven's sake in other countries. We're going to be working, we'll have manufacturing, but who's our boss? Who's our boss, and where does that money go after, you work for them, you make them a profit? Where does that money go? Do you think it's going to come back into the United States? We offer all of these subsidies to bring business over here, and now we want to lower their tax rates too. This is signs. These are all signs of a decaying country. And I love America. We are the greatest nation on earth. We have the greatest republic in the world. Once we've lost or began losing our liberties and our freedoms, that's why America was losing its greatness. And then it just was tacked on financially. So, folks, you have to prepare for yourself. Your pension plans aren't going to be there, and I don't mean to take this down the financial road. Your pension plans aren't going to be there, folks, for you. Our country is $20+ trillion in debt. It's been estimated $100 trillion with unfunded liabilities, and even $200 trillion. Doesn't people think it's kind of ironic and coincidental that perhaps the amount of funds that are in retirement accounts is the same amount that we're in debt of $20 trillion? Does anybody think, well, gee, And even during 2008 and after that, there was legislation that was presented to where they would take control of your pension plans, your IRAs, your retirement accounts, and say, well, you know what, government can take care of you, take care of your money better than you can. You'll never, ever have to worry, about losing money again. You know, we'll give you a monthly check. You hear Zuckerberg talking about it. You see other countries going to where governments will send people a check so you don't have to worry about your money. And it's coming here to the United States. So if you don't want to be involved in that system, you really need to get out of it. And the only way you can really function once you're out of that is to have gold and silver. And so give Discount Gold and Silver a call at 1-800-375-4188. I didn't mean to turn that into a commercial, but it is so true. You know, and government's not going to take care of you folks as much as they tell you they are.
Your financial preparedness is as important or more so than some of the other preparedness.
Who gives you the best TV and internet
foods stacked up in closets did nobody any good in the flooding of Hurricane Harvey. That's gone. So it wasn't helpful. Maybe in some areas it was where they weren't as flooded, but they just couldn't get out or couldn't get to the stores or those kind of things, you know, lost electricity. But those in the heart of this flooding, that didn't do them any good. But having something like this put away, that will help them rebuild. I mean, there's never going to be enough to help rebuild what they've lost. But you've got to have some financial security, and gold and silver is the way to do that. So it's okay to promote it a little bit.
Well, I really do believe in it because I'm not a salesperson. I couldn't sell ice to Eskimos. But I do believe in gold and silver, and I believe in education, and that is what I do, and I do it well. And I followed these markets for almost 25 years. Sometimes I don't have to follow charts to see what direction gold and silver is going to go. Yeah, sometimes we get surprised, but so do the people who follow all those charts and, you know, all these theories and everything else. If you stay with the fundamentals, folks, it's basic, it's simple, and it'll never do you wrong.
I want to give your number one more time. We are going into a commercial break. 1-800-375-4188 is the number for Discount Gold and Silver Trading. That's 1-800-375-4188 to talk to us right here, right now, and join in our conversation. We like to call them conversations of common sense conversations. 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann will be with Power Talks right back.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it. Nations have fought for it. It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
There's power and truth, and we are trying to do our very best to bring that to you with Power Talks every morning. You can hear us right here, and we always invite you to call in at 717-300-1218. I encourage you to support Melody with Discount Gold and Silver Trading, because she is doing this to educate you. It also helps us, doesn't it, Melody? We have to do a little bit more studying, get into things a little bit more. But she does this because her passion is there to keep the truth in front of you, the listeners. And we're excited, as we said at the first part of the show. We've made new friends, and some of our old friends from our other shows have joined us here that listen on shortwave. And I hope that some of you that were not CSC Talk Radio listeners change the frequency over. We're here in just a little bit, and you can listen. And some of the things I'll talk about will be the same, and some won't be the same. But we're here for you, and we encourage you to support Discount Gold and Silver Trading and help support the show of Power Talks. Melody, you had some information that you'd sent to me, and I didn't get a chance to really get in depth and study it. Something that's gone on in the house with Ivanka.
Yeah, I think this is just a little bit of a lighter story, and it's not an earth-shattering story, shaking and so forth. But to me, it just kind of reminded me that it's politics as usual. And again, I'm not coming down on Ivanka Trump or Mr. Trump as president and so forth. To some degree, it perhaps shows how naive they were as far as some of the programs and so forth they might have hoped to get passed or involved. It sounded good, whether it was a campaign promise and without any research, it sounded good and so forth. I don't know what it was, but here it just goes to show that maybe, it's very difficult to get anything changed. And this is in response to the women equal pay. You had Ivanka Trump, who gave approval to her father's most recent rollback of Barack Obama's plans, which would have collected data on pay gaps in the workforce. And this was one of the things, equal pay was a big push during the campaign, and this is what she wanted to do, she was an advocate for ending the wage gap. And she originally supported the data collection before she changed her mind. I change my mind all the time. Sometimes you just don't have all the facts. But again, here it is Washington, and they'll probably distort this and run this 24/7, on CNN and some of those other places. And am I sticking up for them supporting something and then turning around? To me, it just shows that you just can't. Sometimes you just can't do what you want to do. Leave wages, collecting data on anyone is wrong, period.
I did a study years ago. It was Henry Blackaby. I don't know if you've ever studied any of his. It's a biblical study, and it was actually Experiencing God was the name of the study. But Henry Blackaby was one of those that said, doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong idea, just not the right time. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to pick your battles, and they have got plenty of battles that they're dealing with. And sometimes you might have to go, well, we'll pick this battle later. So I don't know, but it's like you said, it's. I think they didn't realize how thick that swamp was when they got in there, before they got in there.
Yeah, but this is one where it was an Obama. He initiated it, and they supported it. So kind of interesting that now, because he is reversing a lot of Obama's executive orders and so forth. So it's interesting, but not earth-shattering. And I don't like, again, collection data on people. But gold is up $7 now, so at $1,316. So a good day in gold as it continues with everything that's going on. What else, Beth?
What else?
What else?
Feels
like Friday today.
What's that?
Feels like Friday today.
It does. It felt like that last night. I think you and I were both pretty worn out last night after 3 shows each. I was just exhausted. And people kind of laugh at that, but I try to have different stories for each show, and so it was even in the brain trying to keep it all sorted. So I kind of zombied out last night, but I had this information that it's kind of comical. They made a big deal out of President Donald Trump, when we had the Charlottesville violence, and he said there was violence on all sides. And now they're having to come out and admit, there was violence on both sides, because the Antifa group is continuing their violence. And, someone is going to end up getting killed. I know that we already lost the young woman in Charlottesville, but with the Antifa groups that are going out and rioting, they're not doing simple protests, First Amendment protests. They are rioting. There's a difference. And when they come in there and they're blindfolded, and they've got they've got masks on to hide their identity, they need to not be allowed in. That's not a protest. That is a riot, and that's up to no good. But Nancy Pelosi has come out speaking against Antifa and talking about we need to do something about this violence. And finally, after Nancy Pelosi did, the other Democrats are kind of staying quiet yet. Finally, guess what? Paul Ryan decided to do that too, because he was going after the president as well for saying there was violence on numerous sides. The politics. Remember if you were listening to CSC Talk Radio, see, I'm already getting confused. When Melody joined me on CSC Talk Radio yesterday, I gave a little story, and I don't have that with me, I don't think. I think our listeners would love that, about how politics really works. Well, look at what they're doing, Melody, how they chase these things down, and if they think it's going to be unpopular, they're not going to say anything, or they're going to speak out against the president. And then if they think they're in trouble and maybe they should go the other way, they'll turn the tail. But Paul Ryan has been not much of a support for the president of the United States, and he was just as vocal against him over that, how he worded violence on both sides, or numerous sides. There is violence, and it needed to stop. And now he's had to follow Nancy Pelosi in backing up and saying, we need to do something about this violence. And it just shows how political they are, and they don't really care about the American people. But if Antifa is not stopped, if something doesn't happen, there's going to be death. They're going to end up killing somebody. They almost did. They beat this one man, and another person, a black man, stepped in and covered him up and stopped him from beating him to death.
Terrible.
He's having some problems, I think, with his hearing or eyesight from the blows to the head that he took. So,
well, with Hurricane Harvey, you certainly don't see any mention anymore of statues, and and I think a lot of these communities, those that are going to take them down, are doing it very quietly now and so forth. And it's just, although I saw one just recently, one was put up of General Lee, I believe. I can't recall where, but so yes, it's.
That's another funny Nancy Pelosi story, because she was coming out against all those statues, and her dad actually helped commemorate or put up the statue for Robert Lee and another one. I've lost his name. Anyway, two of the main Civil War names, and so I'm thinking she's kind of again, they just follow whatever they think people want to hear, and they've been getting it wrong an awfully lot, because the American people are kind of tired of them on both sides of the aisle.
Yes, absolutely, and so are we.
Yes, we are,
and so are we.
Which is why we're here. I had another article. We don't really have time to get into it, but it's asking about what it's talking about the polls of 56%, 56, which I don't, that's a large percentage, I guess, of the American people think that Donald Trump is tearing this nation apart. So is it him? Now we have to sign off. Is it the president, or is it the media, or is it just plain old politics that's tearing this nation apart? We're out of time.
Yes, we are.
We are so thankful that you joined us, and we're excited that this marks 1 month of us being here with you for Power Talks, and we appreciate you so very much. And we will be back tomorrow starting a new month.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it, It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.